Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where we discuss all things short-term rental. In today's video, I'm gonna talk to you about something that could save you thousands of dollars, literally, or make you thousands of dollars in your first year as a host. Let's talk about the 5 mistakes I made in my first year as an Airbnb host and how you can avoid doing the same. Mistake number 1, I priced too low. Now, when you're first getting started as a short-term rental host, whatever platform you're on, or a multitude of platforms, you do have to price lower than you normally would with reviews because you likely haven't yet earned your status as a premier or super host unless you have other properties under your belt. And without reviews, it's hard for someone to really trust the property and know what to expect. So you are going to be pricing low and getting more discount buyers through the door. And that's okay because, again, initially it's all about getting the reviews. But I kept my prices too low for too long, and we started to attract the wrong types of guests, the types of guests that wouldn't have otherwise stayed on the property. So an example is we had a couple with their 2 children, and I love hosting families. It's why I created the Barbie house. I wanted it to be a very wonderful family experience, especially for mothers and daughters. However, this particular family was full of problems. So they booked the house for 3 days. They were very loud. There was lots of cursing. There was lots of fighting. It was kind of scary. And we do have an exterior camera present, so we don't monitor people, but we do get notifications with, loud noise and movements and things like that. Well, one day during the stay, they had an issue with the temperature of the hot tub. So I went over to the house to make sure I could reset and adjust the hot tub, and I was able to do that no problem. And I did see that the woman had what appeared to be a black eye and some bruising on her body. And given the noise that was captured, it was a little scary, thinking maybe there was a domestic violence situation going on. And then the husband, he ended up calling the ambulance because he was having some kind of an opiate attack or something related to medication, and he was actually traveling to different places to get medications. Now, of course, I don't know the full story, and you always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it was a scary guest experience. They requested to stay longer because they didn't have anywhere to go, and we said, unfortunately, we can't accommodate this. We have someone else coming, which was true, but also we wouldn't have wanted to accommodate any more of whatever that situation was. And immediately after that reservation, I raised the prices and have not had any incidents like that since. So that was a good learning for myself. Hopefully you can learn from that too, not only to increase your take-home revenue, but also just weed out the guests that you probably don't want to host. Mistake number 2. This is a big one. I didn't charge pet fees consistently. And what I mean by this is, of course, I had a consistent pet fee across all of the platforms. It was $100, but that's trusting that people are going to tell you when they're bringing a pet. Oftentimes, what I have found in my 1.5 years of running an Airbnb is that people will filter for pet-friendly venues and rentals so that they know it's okay to bring their animal there, but then they won't pay the fee. And so what would happen is we would catch on the exterior camera people coming in with their dogs that they didn't register, they didn't pay for, and sometimes it was more than one dog. And I would see this on the camera and I wouldn't say anything because I really wanted people to have a positive guest experience. I didn't want it to affect the review and have any sort of a retaliation. And that went on for a long time. And here's what I found. Because I cleaned the Airbnb myself, it was quite literally doubling my cleaning time. I had to do so much extra vacuuming, mopping, dusting, washing, and scrubbing, like the couches, taking the lint roller, going over everything in the house to make sure that when the next guest came, there wasn't pet dander or hair all over the house. And that's why there's that additional fee when a guest brings a pet, because it is so much extra work for the host. And so many people, even though we have rules such as no pets on the furniture, must be crated when you're not in the house, they sleep with their pets or let them on the couches or put them in the bathroom or give them free rein when they're gone. And so that's also wear and tear. And what I've been doing since is when we catch someone, we always give them the benefit of the doubt, and we will blame the platform. And we'll say, we know it's confusing to register a pet. We've updated your reservation to help you do this. And we're very excited to host your furry friend, because we don't want to shame anyone. We don't want to make them feel bad, but we do want to honor our time that it takes to prepare the space for the next set of guests. So that's been a big one for me. And then also putting in that, like a disclaimer into the listing itself, letting them know when they're about to book, but before they book, that if they do bring an unregistered pet, then, or unapproved pet, then they can forfeit their reservation, or they'll be charged an extra fee on top of the regular pet fee. So that's been working great as a deterrent, and we haven't had any bad experiences as a result. I imagine some people legitimately do forget, while others are just trying to kind of save some money and bypass the rules. But don't make that mistake. Make sure from the get-go that you're very clear about your pet policy if you're going to allow them, and have that disclaimer so that people aren't trying to sneak pets through the door, so that they're honoring your home. Number 3, I didn't have a minimum night stay. And minimum night stays are important, not just from a revenue perspective, but also for wear and tear on your home, for potential lost revenue. So as an example, when I first started, someone would book for, say, a Friday or Saturday night, and they would just book for one night. And so then I'm turning over for that one night, but maybe I don't have another guest checking in for several days, because someone typically would have booked the whole weekend. And so I lost out on that revenue of the second day because I didn't require it. So now 2-day minimums are an absolute requirement. I know, depending on the size of the home, some hosts make that 3, 4, 5, even a week. Our Barbie house is 600 square feet, so 2 days has been a really happy medium. We're also in a place where weekends are always booked, 2 days solid, sometimes 3, Thursday through Sunday. So with that, we've made a lot more revenue, and it's a lot more stable and predictable having that 2-night minimum. And so as you're setting up your minimum requirements, of course, think about how long it's going to take you to clean the place after each guest leaves. And then also what your occupancy rates are, whether or not you take a day off between guests to flip the property, because I know for some bigger houses, once a reservation is booked, hosts will block the day that they check out to make sure they don't have to do a same-day flip, because it can be chaotic and stressful. So I understand that. But make sure you're not leaving money on the table by not having a minimum stay. Number 4, initially I charged way too little for cleaning. I started with a $50 cleaning fee, and I would spend 6 hours cleaning. There's a hot tub I had to sweep, treat, and rebalance. The bathroom, scrubbing the floors, washing the linens, the dishes, taking the trash out, dusting everything, wiping down all of the surfaces and disinfecting. And so that really undervalued my time. And when I set that up initially, it was to be competitive and to kind of undercut some of my competition in this area. But because I have a unique themed Airbnb, I don't really have direct competition. People are coming for the Barbie experience. And so I raised my cleaning fee to $100, and I haven't had any complaints or issues about that. And it's valued my time a lot more, where I'm not over there for so many hours thinking, oh my gosh, I really should be charging more. So make sure when you're setting your cleaning fee that you're valuing your time, or you're actually charging what you're gonna pay your cleaner. So my cleaner that we have for our own personal home told me that she would do the Barbie house for $120. Now I do it myself and I charge $100, so it's a better, it's a better value for the guests. But I also am very particular, as I've said on a former video, about how I set up the house and just making sure everything is lint rolled and perfect for each arrival. And number 5, this is a big one, guys, and I know this is hard if you're a people pleaser like me and you just want people to have an amazing experience. Number 5 is I didn't always enforce my own rules. So when you set up your short-term rental on Airbnb or VRBO or any other platform, you can add some house rules there. Everything from check-in and check-out to how many people can be there, how many vehicles, smoking or not smoking, it goes on and on. One of our rules, which is a very common rule for I think every Airbnb and VRBO, is no parties and no unregistered guests and no events. So we're not an event space. We don't have insurance for that. We certainly don't have the occupancy for that. And an example is we had a family come to celebrate their daughter's 3rd birthday on the property. And that is really sweet because, like I said, I love when families come. I love when their little girls can be wowed by the experience and just have this amazing, memorable birthday celebration. And they said to us initially they would need parking for an extra vehicle because grandparents were coming for dinner. And so we approved that, no problem. And they said they assured us they're not going to be staying the night. It's just for dinner. And they had already had 2 vehicles registered with us. And for context, we have a shared driveway. We have 2 houses on the property, and we allot 2 spaces to the Barbie house. So a 3rd one we don't actually have parking for, but we allowed them to park in, we have a grassy area. And so we said they could park there. Well, what happened was they had a full-blown birthday bash / family reunion, and they had 18 vehicles on and around our property, encroaching on our neighbor's driveway, blocking the road access so that if we did have an emergency, which we didn't, a fire truck wouldn't have been able to get through. And they had, I can't even tell you how many people, they had well over 30 people on the property, and our occupancy limit is 5. So it was immensely disrespectful. It was absurd. And they just flat out lied. And I had all of this on camera, and we had some complaints from the neighbors. So I did reach out to them and tell them they needed to move the vehicles that were blocking or encroaching on the neighbors' drives. But I didn't want to interrupt their birthday party for this 3-year-old. I didn't want that to be the memory of her experience. And so I let them finish their event. And then after they checked out, and I do want to say they left the house in really good condition. It was no more difficult to clean than any other checkout. They were respectful in that regard, which I appreciated. And I was very unsettled by the experience, and it was the first and only bad review I've ever left a guest on Airbnb because it was just so ballsy and so rude. So in the future, I would absolutely shut down an event like that because I don't want to be fined by my local fire department or county or anything, or have issues with the neighbors because people aren't abiding by the rules. That obviously, a fine could cost me a lot of money. And so I've since added a clause on my rental pages saying anybody, if there's unregistered guests or events, you will forfeit your reservation. So we would ask them to leave the property. And since then, we haven't had any issues at all, which is great. So hopefully that's helpful information. Hopefully it will earn you thousands of extra dollars a month, not a month, a year, and also save you a lot of time, a lot of headache, so that you don't make the same mistakes I made. Thanks for watching.